welcome back to another filming of Captain's Call. I'm Captain John Bushy,
Chief Brooks, acting CMC.
and today we have a special guest star with us.
I'm Lieutenant Andrew Giddings, a staff judge advocate for the installation.
So I would say he's the best staff judge advocate that we have on the installation because he works for the installation. But why don't you tell me a little bit about what your shop does and what the legal department does on NAF Atsugi?
Yes, sir. We are a branch office of the Rilso office in Yokosuka, and essentially we provide a range of services to you and to the command, sir, in order to any legal issues that come up. In addition, we do anything along the disciplinary, administrative type procedures. Also, in terms of services to the installation, we provide a wide range of services. We have a team of people. We have two claims people who work on claims with respect to either Japanese claims against the installation, or if there are claims for the installation against Japanese people out in town, that kind of thing. Accidents, other types of claims.
Sure.
We also have an individual who helps a lot with immigration and passport issues. So that's a service we can provide to many service members on the base. In addition, we provide notary and power of attorney services for the installation, and as well as also a number of the tenant commands on the installation. We also have a foreign criminal jurisdiction expert, essentially someone who's a Japanese legal expert, who helps advise in terms of if there's any service member or dependent or civilian who unfortunately finds him or herself in trouble with the Japanese law or even in a traffic accident, something along those lines. So we cover a wide range of services for service members in that respect, as well as for the installation.
Okay, awesome. So what would you say is your most frequent task within the department? What do you think?
It's hard to say, sir, because we have a lot of different areas, as I said, and each one is busy. I think one of the ones that to highlight, and one of the ones that we had kind of, I think, an important issue on is with respect to the Japanese criminal side, but on the traffic accident side. I think the one thing that's sort of different than the United States is that in Japan, traffic accidents are treated as a criminal matter, essentially, that they're viewed as a criminal rather than civil issue. So that raises a lot of issues. Being in Japan, people driving, and there are accidents. And I think that's a pretty common issue we come up with, and it's often a surprising issue to people who come to our office because they're used to driving in the United States, used to, even if they're in a minor accident, it being not treated with the same type of level it's treated in Japan. And on that, it makes some sense, actually. I mean, we're in Japan. It's a very busy country. Any of us who've been driving out in town know there's people everywhere. There's bikes, there's children, there's motorcycles, there's all kinds of hazards. Right. So it's not uncommon, unfortunately, to have traffic accidents out in Japan. So frequently our foreign criminal jurisdiction person, as well as myself, will deal with those issues on a pretty regular basis, helping people after an accident, helping coordinate the process, and making sure that we follow all the Japanese policies and procedures.
Is there anything that our residents can do if they get into a traffic accident that could help you with trying to reach resolution with the outcome of the accident?
Sure, sir. No, that's a very good question. There's actually a lot. I mean, one is to be cognizant of that fact, to be aware of the fact that it is different here, that it is a criminal activity for the most part, unless there's a major accident, major injury, that you're looking at some fines. But the sort of knowing right off the bat that you are probably going to be subject to possibly criminal fines is something just to be aware of, because that also means people, hopefully, I know safety's put out a lot of messages along this front, but hopefully people will take that into account and drive safely and more safely. If you happen to still find yourself in an accident, it does of course happen. The key things are to sort of keeping that in perspective and knowing that in Japan it's a very cooperative type society. So I think the one thing to think is to think about things not to do. One, certainly don't do a hit and run. That is very criminal in Japan. You could be facing a number of years in prison, and there are cameras everywhere. So hit and run is viewed as a very, very serious offense. So if you do unfortunately find yourself in a traffic accident, accept that you were in that situation, call the authorities immediately. You can call the base authorities, you can talk to the Japanese police as well, and don't go anywhere. Effectively wait for the police to come and to make an investigation and report. And also the key thing there is to be as cooperative as possible. Unfortunately, sometimes people view it as kind of like the States where if I talk to them, maybe we won't tell our insurance company and we'll be okay kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That does not work in Japan. It's actually viewed very negatively as you an attempt to effectively get out of a traffic accident. That can be taken the very wrong way. So essentially, just be cooperative, kind, participate in the investigation, and contact legal. And pretty quickly, once we hear information about the report, you can work with legal on the process for either making a claim if you are involved in an accident, you were hit by somebody, we can help with that process, or if you are the person who unfortunately was the sort of instigator of the accident, we can help with that process as well.
Right. Well, something to remind everybody about as well is that, we talk about it in AOB ICR, but on the back of your SOFA driver's license is the number for security dispatch. And we request that everybody that gets into an accident call security dispatch because they have the capability to send you a unit if one is available. We also have the capability of getting an interpreter on the phone to help you through the process and answer any questions you might have with the Japanese police should something come up. So please don't take off. Stay there, wait for security dispatch to tell you that you're done with the process, and they'll help you get through that process as well. But it's also a cover for you because we've had a few instances where a Japanese citizen gets in an accident with you and they depart the scene because they may be underinsured, they may be uninsured, or for some other reason they don't want to deal with the process. This helps you so that we have the record of the accident on our files, which then protects you should somebody come back at a later time and say they want some type of restitution from you.
Exactly, sir. That's a very good point, sir.
Okay. Well, just shifting gears a little bit. So talking about driving and accidents, I think it's a prudent thing to talk about drinking and driving. So there's been a change to the BAC levels that USFJ has implemented on all the installations. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, sir. Happy to do that. Essentially, what they've done is made it uniform across Japan for really to align itself more closely with Japanese law. And essentially, the bottom line is 0.03 is the BAC level. Some installations were operating that, some were not, but just across the board, 0.03. And I think a few important points to remember about that is one that essentially that means to get to 0.03, for some people that's one drink. Some people it's two, it depends on the person. You probably don't know if you're that person. So some people, one beer can put you over the limit. And that's very, very important to know. So that essentially it's no alcohol at all if you're going to be driving. A few other factors along those lines to think about is, if you want to go into more details, but essentially it also feeds into either being in a car with someone who's drinking. So if you know the driver's been drinking, that's also illegal in Japan. If you are giving drinks to someone you know to be driving, it's also illegal in Japan. And as well as, finally, if you allow someone who's been driving if you allow someone to drive, then that's illegal, and vice versa as well. So it's just very important that if anyone's drinking at all, they should not be driving, and if everyone's driving, they should not be drinking. And the uniformity was in some ways to make sure that it's on the installations the same law that we have out in Japan as well.
Sure. So there's a little bit more to it than just a 0.03. Again, going all the way back to the AOB ICR days, if you're in the vehicle with somebody who's been drinking and you have not, and you're a licensed driver, the expectation is that you are the person now that is going to be driving the vehicle, not the person who's had some type of alcohol. And if somebody who has been pulled over for DUI is actually charged with the DUI and you have not had anything to drink but are a licensed driver, you too will be charged with that DUI. So some very real consequences there. So please don't do it. NAF Atsugi's policy is one drink and you're not driving. Take the trains, take the taxis. We just have so many other resources that you can use to get yourself safely someplace. Please utilize that because you've invested too much in your family, too much in your career, too much in what you're doing here in Atsugi to just throw it away for something as silly as a DUI. So please don't do it. Just think ahead.
Exactly, sir. And just a couple more points on that. I mean, one is that in the U.S., for most states, it is a little different, but most states are 0.08, so it's significantly higher. So,
Right.
so just don't even take a chance. Just don't even bother. Don't even bother driving if you're having a single drink. Yeah. The other point about that is that in Japan, they treat it very, very seriously, kind of like I was mentioning with the criminal aspect of any driving incident. And the penalties are severe. I mean, a basic low level, looking at 3 years in jail, possibly a 500,000 yen fine. Higher level drinking, you're looking at 5 years in jail, possibly a 1,000,000 yen fine. And that's just drinking and driving. If you're involved in an accident, if you hit anything, even accidental while drinking and driving, you're possibly looking at a significant period of very unpleasant Japanese jail time. So again, it's just not worth it, as you said, sir. It's just not worth the risk.
Yep. If you need to, please back up the tape here a little bit and actually watch that again because that's extremely important. Make sure that you get it. Make sure your family gets it, your kids and your spouse too, because this can have career implications on everybody, but it can also have implications on our alliance and our ability to work together with our local communities. So please Just don't drink and drive. That's the bottom line. So, well, is there any other general stuff you'd like to cover while you're here?
Sir, I think we covered most of it. I think if there's certainly any questions, I think one thing to note is if you have any sort of legal questions generally, please feel free to stop by. We have a wide range of services we do provide to the installation, and certainly I've reached a number of people have questions coming by and said, oh, I didn't know you dealt with claims, or I didn't know something happened to my equipment and I didn't know what to do with that. So if you have any questions at all, please stop by and we're happy to help and to, if we can't answer the questions, certainly to point you in the right direction towards that. So.
Well, Chief, did you have any questions?
Sir, do you have a contact number for people to reach out if they have a question for you?
The best point is to come up to our third deck on the headquarters building to come. We generally advise people to come in person because sometimes their issues are personal, or sometimes we have different hours for things. We do have notary hours that are established on our door outside on the third deck. They're generally Tuesdays and Thursdays, but sometimes based on the deployment schedule, we will adjust accordingly. So I don't want to announce it here, but nevertheless, please stop by if you do have any services or questions along those lines.
Yes, sir.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in for the first half. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. And welcome back to the second half, and we're going to go through some BZs. So let's kick it off with the first service provider. This is the Child Development Center, the CDC. I want to applaud the Child Development Center director. I'm so happy knowing that the director goes into the classroom with her staff and that all are involved in taking good care of our children. So BZ to the CDC.
Outstanding. Sir, once again, the CDC, the facility is inviting and the staff is very curious. We are always greeted at the front desk, regardless if they're busy or not. Miss Chrissy always manages to make her daughter smile. They're very pleased with their CDC experience.
Awesome, too, for CDC. And the last one today is for the PSD. I want to give a warm shout out to PS2 Cantrell. He was the sailor who was tasked with helping me gain access to the Red Cross office. PS2 did not quit his duty until he finally found a way to gain access to the office. Thank you for taking care of a wayward civilian and trying to help her out. So thank you very much to PS2 Cantrell. So Chief, did you have anything you'd like to put out?
No, sir. Always like the BZs.
Awesome. Yeah, the BZs are the best part of the job. So just wanted to say thank you to everybody who met with the Ombudsman at large. She had a very good trip, and she enjoyed her sense of community that she received here at NAF Atsugi, and she wanted to make sure that everybody heard her say, thank you very much for all the help. Thank you for getting with her and with sharing your comments. So I think that's all I have for this week, and we'll see you in about 2 weeks.